Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ave Maria Press Professional Development Webinar Series. In today's webinar, Steffani Aquila will explore strategies to help parishes embrace the season of Lent. My name is Erin Pierce. I am the publicist at Ave Maria Press. Everyone in the audience is muted today, but you are able to ask questions. Questions may be sent to our presenter using the question section of the GoToWebinar panel, and I'll read as many of those as possible at the end of the presentation today. This webinar is being recorded, and I will send you a link to the recording via email tomorrow. With that, I would like to welcome and introduce our presenter today. Steffani Aquila is the founder of Liturgy, Culture, and Kitchen by His Girls Sunday, an online space inspiring Catholic culture and liturgical living in the home and parish. Aquila has extensive experience in parish ministry, holding titles such as Director of Liturgical Life at the Co-Cathedral of the Sacred Heart in Houston, Associate Director of Youth Ministry, and Communications Director. She also has experience working with Catholic high schools as a dean and an honors level theology teacher. Aquila earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in education with a minor in theology from the University of St. Thomas in Houston and a Master of Arts degree in theological studies from St. Mary's Seminary. She lives with her husband in Texas. Steffani, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely, as we are. I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. I'll let you take it from here.
All right, good deal. Well, I'm so glad that everybody could stop by for this webinar, and I hope that you are able to settle in with your favorite drink on your break and hopefully pick up some tips on how we can really dive deeper into living the liturgical year, specifically in Lent, as a community. So I didn't want to get too far into the weeds with the philosophy of liturgical living and sacramental living. In this one, I did go a little bit further into that in the Advent webinar that I did several months ago. So if you're interested in that, you can go back through that video. But just to get our feet a little bit wet before we dive into a lot of practical tips, I wanted just to kind of parse this out in the most simplest terms. When people ask me what is liturgical living, this is what I say. I boil it down to this: living the experience of joy for Christ that should arise. Oops, sorry. Let me scoot this little guy out of the way. Okay, from each and every Catholic. So I believe that fundamentally living the liturgical year is something that every single Catholic is called to do. We're all called to participate in the liturgy and the sacraments, then we're all called to extend that lifestyle out into our lives, which is what brings me to the second point, that this really is more than just a couple of activities. This is more than entertaining people. This is more than catechetical activities for kids. This is a lifestyle. This is stepping into the year, to nature, to the seasons, as Christ, as God created us, right? That we are a part of the world. We live in the world. We are nature itself, and the pinnacle of creation, and so we are a part of that. And that means that everything else that God created helps us to know about him. And so to me, this is really a lifestyle, day in, day out, of feasting, fasting, devotions, prayer, praise, the whole gamut. And so it is truly the way that we understand life and the way that we interact with the world. That is the essence of Catholic culture, right? The way that we do things around here, okay? The way that we say things, the way that we act, the way that we have our traditions. All of these things are the way in which you and I engage in the world with each other, on our own, in a relationship with Christ. So I want to funnel some of that big picture stuff into what it's like to live Lent specifically as Catholics. Okay, so Lent is more than just the ever popular question of what am I going to give up and the beloved fish fry, right? Like those are token elements of Lent. And I think that, that's a great starting place. And there are things that do kind of mark a certain character of Lent, but that you and I and the people around us that we lead, that we shepherd, that we engage in are to dive deeper into than just those things, right? Those are very surface level. I want to take you and the people that you lead and those in our communities into an experience, right? That is what changes our life. That is what leaves a lasting impact, our experiences. And Catholics were full of experience. So breaking this down a little bit further, for those that don't know, what is Lent? Lent comes from the Old English word Lenten, which means to lengthen, the term that correlates to the very fact that nature itself, the seasons are lengthening. Daylight is, we're in the second half of winter, especially here in the Northern Hemisphere. Daylight is lengthening slowly as we approach springtime, and everything is quietly growing. The little weeds in my backyard have little flowers on them. I just got out in the rose bushes and pruned those, right? So everything is preparing for the grandeur of Easter. Everything around us, and we're a part of that. So truly, we're entering into a season of preparation where we can really bloom with all of creation as Christ resurrects. Like we are in a season of slow crescendo. And so we need to really shepherd people into that. So every day of Lent is an opportunity to immerse ourselves into these countercultural skills of silence, meekness, prayer, charity, fasting, and humility. I mean, that is not what the world drives us to do. The world drives us to busyness and lots of talking and lots of noise and lots of technology and look at me, on the internet. There's so much. And so Lent is really about drawing us out of the things that tend to distract us from Christ in a season where Christ is calling us into great intimacy as he undergoes and gets closer to his passion, death, and resurrection. So we're going to look at how we can really live Lent as a community, how we can hold solemnities in tension with the Lenten season. I get asked about that a lot. Am I allowed to celebrate this solemnity? We're in Lent. Like, this feels like it's not right. It is right. I'm going to show you how. And I'm going to give you some Holy Week traditions and just a little touch of how we can keep people going during the Easter season. So just some quick principles of living liturgically in Lent. And this is really how I see liturgical living, again, being applied to Lent. For those of you that like good book recommendations, right now I'm reading a book by Alexander Schmemann. And in it, he talks about how Catholics can, well, he's Orthodox, but how Catholics and Orthodox can really use the liturgy as a springboard into engaging in the world. And so I will link that with you. I'll link that book to you at the end. But he talks a lot about joy, that the essence of living the liturgical year is a sense of joy and togetherness, and that we are not to do this alone. So Lent is a communal journey. It's a journey that we all go through together. It is not to be relegated to the various ministries and silos, but that we see this as a body of Christ walking with Jesus. That fasting is hard because we don't live in a world that likes to fast, and we don't live in a world that promotes fasting unless it's being spun as a way of dieting so that we can all look better, right? Like fasting for the sake of self-sacrifice and purification and offering something up even for other people is totally lost on many of the minds in our current world. And I think that's something we kind of need to mold in our communities. This sense that, you know, Lent is not suffering for the sake of suffering. Lent is a preparation period. It is reparation for our failings. It is offering ourselves in imitation of Christ on the cross. And that prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, which are the pillars of Lent that give it its character, are not just a cute little phrase that we use. It's not just a catchphrase. It's an actual, again, experience of what it's like to be in the desert. Because how can we really experience the great joy of Easter if we don't understand what it's like to suffer? Now we do, right? We do in our lives, but to kind of impose that on ourselves is difficult. So we're gonna talk about how we can do this together. Practical ways unpacking prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. And then I'm gonna kind of get more into some feast days and things like that. But let's look at prayer. So prayer in our parishes is a time where we can, as a whole, offer more or go deeper than what we usually do in our, on average. So a lot of parishes will offer the Stations of the Cross. Keep doing that if you're already doing that. I'm just throwing out some more ideas here, right? Like a parish Lenten mission. A lot of parishes do that, some parishes don't, but that's a time to really invite someone in that can nourish the spiritual life of your parishioners. Adding in Lenten Vespers, perhaps a rosary before Mass, a Lenten penance service. There's one in the Houston area that's done, some parishes do them on their own, but some parishes will do them together. And I think a collaborative Lenten penance service is also a great thing that you could do so that, priests can all come to one place, the parishioners are all guided in together. And I think a spirit of collaboration in living the liturgical year is really, really essential. That, just as I encourage homes to try to not do that on their own because it can feel a little burdensome that we have to do all the things by ourselves. I say that to parishes too when I'm helping them and guiding them, because a lot of times, sometimes parishes can look at each other as competition, right? Like, I don't want to lose my people to you, and we want to make sure we maintain our folks. I think it's important that we lead not from a sense of anxiety, but that we encourage people to come together out of a sense of our soul mission, which is to shepherd people to heaven. And we can best do that together. Now, the second one I think is something that I haven't seen parishes do, but I recommend, and that is adopting a catechumen. Because we have people in our communities right now that are preparing to enter the Catholic Church on Easter, at the Easter Vigil. And that is a beautiful journey and an intimidating journey that I think as Catholics, we can receive those people more tangibly. We can let that welcoming spirit be known by interacting with them. A lot of times we see them at Mass and they leave early to go break open the Word, and we don't really know who they are. And I think it's important that maybe we connect with our RCIA teacher or whoever is in charge of leading those folks, that we say, hey, we want to get to know those people and we want to pray for those people. So how, can you give us some names that we can all divide up and add them to our intentions, or maybe our Mass intentions, but, more personally, families can pray for those individuals. And then expanding the usual opportunities. So more time for confession, more time for adoration, those very essential sacramental elements of the Eucharist and confession that will ready our hearts for Easter. Now let's look at fasting. fast together as a parish. I don't know if any of you do this, but this would be really, really cool. And I wish my parish would do this too. Maybe I'll email my priest and ask him if he'll consider, or some of the folks that work there. But how amazing would it be if we could give something up together, right? Like my parish, St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, we're gonna all give up 30 minutes of screen time in our day, or we're gonna give up, we're gonna fast from, I don't know, using bad language, whatever you see in your community that you feel that they could need and benefit from, that we like do that together. Because I think that it's so much easier to maintain a sense of fasting or penance when we all can support each other and kind of be an accountability partner to one another. You can also use fasting and show fasting to direct people's focus on Christ, right? That when we take something away, then we replace it with something good. Now, some of my followers have reached out and said, do I have to give something up? Can I just add something on? And I think it's important that we recognize that fasting is giving something up. It is removing something, right? So it's always good to replace that thing that we have gotten rid of with something good. I always encourage both, because yes, we should be doing the good thing, but it also requires sometimes that we remove things that are not good for us, or maybe they're neutral, right? But that it creates a sense of hunger in us. And so we can guide those around us in our communities to give up the things that are keeping us from holiness, which is that third point, right? Sometimes we need to think beyond food. Food is good. It does create that natural hunger. But, if gossiping is something I'm going to confession for all the time, I need to remove that. This is a good time of removing that, maybe adding in an accountability partner. And we can do that in our programs, like our programs, our faith formation departments, our youth ministry groups, our moms groups. Like, these are places where they're smaller groups that we can actually make those more personal connections to hold each other accountable, to ask each other questions, to encourage those types of things. And I think now is a really good time to start publicizing. I'm going to put my communications hat on for a second and start publicizing the things, the options that people can give up. Begin now in utilizing these weeks leading up to Lent to offer ideas, inspiration, get people thinking. Now, I did want to make a little side note, because this is something that I've seen in my community. Many Catholics right now are learning that meatless Fridays have always been a thing. They've never gone away. Okay, meatless Fridays every Friday. And the USCCB and canon law says that if we're not going to give up meat, which is the primary mode, that we give up something. We abstain from something of our own choosing. So a lot of our folks have been not eating meat every Friday throughout the entire year. So then they get to Lent and it doesn't seem like it's any different, right? And Lent is supposed to be the desert. And it's not that much harder than what they've already been doing all the other weeks of the year. So I think that knowing that is good. I'm bringing that into your awareness because people are, in general, learning more about their faith as living liturgically becomes more popular. And so I think we can use that understanding as a springboard for giving them more depth, more ideas. And then almsgiving. It looks like I didn't even change the picture. I just decided to go with a picture of fish on almsgiving too. That's okay. All right, so giving as a parish outreach, integrating things like food drives, collections for the poor, volunteering together. So, saying, calling up your local soup kitchen or homeless shelter and saying, hey, we'd like to come. My parish would like to come. arrange a sign-up sheet so you can get an idea of how many people are going to be going. And I think that it's good, I'm going to reiterate this, that we open this door in our communities, especially in our parishes, and we just leave the door open for whoever wants to come. We don't manicure it too much and say like, okay, well, this group or this group, right? That we just make things available to the general population and let them respond. Also encouraging almsgiving practices in the home. So sometimes we can form these synergetic relationships between parish and home. What we're doing at parish is happening and being reflected in home. And so having something, encouraging families to do like an almsgiving jar. My husband and I put that out last year, just on the counter, anytime we had change, spare cash, what have you, we just drop that in and it would become the collection for the week or for the season that we would then give to the church. And then donating time, not just money, right? Recognizing that we can serve the people even in our parish communities. I think it's easy to look outward and know that there are people in the community that need our help, but there's people in the community in our parishes that need our help too. And so forming those connections, and I think that's a part of too of like being that real Catholic village for each other. Like, you know who's in your village and you know what they're going through and you know who they are. So you know how to help them. And that's just basic relationship building. And Lent is a really good time to restart that. Okay, so I want to get into some of the fun of Lent. I know that sounds like counterintuitive, but Lent is my favorite season. I love Lent because Lent gives me what I don't give to myself throughout the rest of the year, which is that spiritual push to be better, to be holier, to be sanctified in my personal life, in my community. And I think a lot of people like see Lent and they're like, okay, we're doing this. Now that's like, you know, low-hanging fruit for us as ministers, as volunteers, as people working in the community, because people's minds are already there. So let's look at Shrove Tuesday. Shrove Tuesday, well, let me say this really quick. Sorry, I know I'm a little like, woo, scattered, but pre-Lent used to be a season in the church. It is no longer a season, but it used to be a season that started with Septuagesima Sunday, which if you follow the traditional calendar, that would have been last Sunday, a couple days ago. And Septuagesima meaning 70, Sexagesima the next Sunday 60, then 50, which leads us up to 40, Lent, the 40 days in the desert. Okay. These 3 weeks would have given us a natural pre-Lenten preparation time. And I will say this is a season that I mourn the loss of, and I just say that it's there and I live by it, even though it's not officially a part of the liturgical calendar, because we need time as human beings to really move ourselves into the Lenten season, right? Shrove Tuesday, one day, I mean, I can't get ready for Lent in one day. That's crazy. I really need to be ushered into that. So begin now. Begin offering the encouragement now so that when people get to Shrove Tuesday, they already know what they're going to give up. They're not trying to decide on that day. They already know they need to start off Lent with going to confession. They're not trying to cram it in on that day, right? So these are just, look, you can't turn an entire ship around in an instant. And that's what these communities are. We're moving this ship. And so that takes time. Try that. See how it works for you. Shrove Tuesday, when that comes though, that is a day that we can really bring in a lot of liturgical traditions and communal time together before we start Lent, right? It's kind of that last day, Mardi Gras. Now, Mardi Gras is also a season, but you know, we usually tie it down to this one day, most people's minds. And what can we do? We can offer confession, you know, another time. There's never too many times for confession, I like to say, because you never know who you're gonna catch by offering more times. evening prayer would be great to have before going into a Mardi Gras party. Now, I always say and recommend, of course, like typical Mardi Gras foods. I'm down here in the South, so we love gumbo and all those types of things. But pancakes are a traditional thing to offer, and I think this is fun, and here's why. So, in the history of the church, this is kind of attributed to the time before modern refrigeration as we know it, when a lot of the ingredients, butter, eggs, those types of things that would not have lasted in the house throughout the Lenten season, but that were to be sacrificed when some of the Lenten penance was more difficult and we couldn't eat those things. People would on Shrove Tuesday use all of those ingredients to make pancakes. And so Pancake Day was another name for Shrove Tuesday. And I just thought, you know, I've been at parishes where the Knights of Columbus will come together and they'll make pancakes and they'll make bacon. I mean, this is like an evening time party, and who doesn't like breakfast for dinner? And people have a great time. It's a wonderful time. And, you know, we can integrate prayer, but we can also integrate things that will help us kind of see the season change, like burying the Alleluia. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it started in the 1200s. People would write so this would happen in the traditional calendar at Septuagesima, but in the new calendar, you can do this on Shrove Tuesday because we're about to stop singing Alleluia. And essentially people would make a little Alleluia banner and they put it in a little box, like a little coffin, and they would go out and bury it on the church grounds. And when my husband was a liturgist, we did this at his parish. And everyone was so intrigued and just excited about it. You know, it's the small things, and that's quite an old tradition, and you can keep that going. You can also invite people to bring their palms to be burned, and you could have perhaps the faith formation department or the youth ministry team lead a parade around the church grounds that everybody can jump in, a little Mardi Gras parade. Okay. Solemnities in Lent. I'm going to go a little bit faster, sorry. A liturgical dualism, so holding intention, feasting, and fasting. I often get asked, am I allowed to celebrate this solemnity? It's Lent, like this feels wrong. Look, this is life, okay? This is our life. This is what we do. We hold intention every day, our struggles and our praise for God and our joy for God. And that is the cross, that is Easter, right? It is the joy of the resurrection and the sorrow and the suffering of the cross. So yes, we can celebrate these things. We have St. Joseph on March 19th. We have the Annunciation on the 25th. And what can we do in our parish on these days? It's simple because it revolves around food, and food is a very easy in for liturgical living in the community. So for St. Joseph, offer Mass and arrange a St. Joseph altar. Have Father bless the St. Joseph altar. Now these can be as elaborate, like you see in the picture, or as simple as you want, but essentially what you're going to do is you're going to ask people to bring foods the day before, a couple days before. You're going to get a team. You're going to lead a team of people. You're not going to do this on your own. You're going to lead a team of people to set this table up, arrange it, get the little St. Joseph altar, get some flowers. Look at that. And now you've got this beautiful thing going. You have everybody come over, they eat, put some music on, you have Father bless it. I mean, it's fun. It's so simple, right? It's so simple. And again, same thing on for the Annunciation. The Annunciation, this is a fun, I will not even try to say it, this is a fun little connection that the Swedish word for waffles sounds an awful lot like the same word for Our Lady's Day. And so it's become a fun tradition in Sweden on Our Lady's Day to eat waffles because of this funny play on a word that sounds similar. So that has become a very popular tradition here too. that people will make waffles for dinner. I mean, my husband loves this one, and I want to say it's because he loves Our Lady. He does love Our Lady, but he might love the waffles more, I'm not sure. I'm just saying this is a great way to pique people's interest and draw them in. So why can we not do this? Why can we not come together, pray the Angelus, pray the Rosary, and ask one of the ministry teams, hey, can you come in and make some waffles, right? We're going to offer this for people dinner tonight. People can get off work, get their kids, and come to church. Dinner's on us. Simple, right? And a great way to honor Mary and to bring people together. Okay, so some little tidbits for Holy Week. I think Holy Week is, I couldn't not touch on it. Again, just some more ideas to let you think about and consider. But Holy Week is brimming with tradition. And there is a gentleman, his name is Parish, and he wrote a lot on the liturgical year, and he talks about how as we enter into Holy Week and we draw ourselves into Holy Week, people are looking for something to do every day to intensify that walk to the cross. And a lot of people don't know that there's actually something to do on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. We know the Triduum and we know Palm Sunday, but we've got this 3 days in there that people are like, what do I do? I've got you. Okay, so Palm Sunday, what can we do? Blessing of palms and procession, obvious, right? A lot of you are already probably doing that. Holy Monday is called, another name for it is called Extravagant Monday. Extravagant Monday in my house, we will usually every year invite our friends over. This is something my husband and we save up for, and we throw our friends an extravagant dinner in our house. I cook it. It is a multi-course meal. I serve it. It echoes the extravagant gesture of Jesus being anointed, his feet being anointed with oil, and you know, her using her hair to wipe his feet. What are we doing? We're imitating the extravagant gesture of love, of service. So one year we decided we were going to do this with my husband's liturgy committee. And we did this to really show that their service to the parish, especially during a very demanding week like Holy Week, you all know Holy Week is like an all hands on deck time. People are really invested. I mean, this is a great day to offer an appreciation dinner. This is a great day, or some sort of gesture that says, thank you. Thank you so much to those leaders, to those folks who really lift up the parish community for being there and doing things they don't have to do, but they want to do because they're inspired out of love for God and love for the people, right? Holy Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, there's a tradition tied into all three called Holy Week cleaning. Traditionally done, like I said, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but if you're already doing something Monday and Wednesday, you could just do this on Tuesday, but a cleaning of the church as a community. We do this in our house. I usually clean out our closets, but you can also do this in the church. There is a church that I've done communications for, and they will have everyone come up, and it's dusting, it's wiping, it's tidying, it's recycling papers that collect in nooks and crannies of the narthex, all those kinds of things. So really kind of getting people to help prepare the church for Easter. Holy Wednesday is also known as Spy Wednesday because it is the day that we remember that the betrayal of Judas. So I would encourage potentially offering confession that night, you know, in the ways that we too betray Jesus, that we turn our backs, that we are reconciled, and we offer that chance in a way that is liturgically appropriate, right? It echoes what is happening in the week. Holy Thursday, the Seven Churches tradition. Some of you may have heard of this. This is also becoming more popular, but it was started with St. Philip Neri, who with his friends walked from church to church to keep watch with Jesus through the night. So what I've done down here in Houston is I, for many years, would lead the charge of contacting, this is when I worked at a parish, but I would contact 6 other parishes, and I would say, hey, you're having adoration, right? Yes. Okay. I would say, do you want to be a part of some promotional material that will help parishioners in our area, yours too, to know which 7 churches they can easily get to, the times for adoration? I would create a map for them that would show them all the parishes that were having it, that were within easy drivable distance. And again, the adoration time, I would equip them with some prayers for adoration and basically make this a digital resource for our parish, but I also gave this to all 6 other parishes. And so those parishes saw a lot of visitors that night, and it was really beautiful. We would set up a little welcome table. We would show them what was going on. When I was at the co-cathedral, like, here's what's going on at the cathedral, take some resources. Here's a little treat on your way out. Great way to partner with your surrounding parishes, get to meet new people, get to know what's going on in the community. And of course, stay watch with Christ through the night. Good Friday, communal stations, a lot of that's already happening. Tre Ore is something a lot of people don't know about, but it's the 3 hours of prayer that reflects the 3 hours of Jesus on the cross. So Tre Ore is something that you might think about doing. From noon to 3, offering 3 hours worth of prayer, open doors, people can come and go, or they can sit there the whole time if they want. And then Holy Saturday, some other ideas. Encouraging people to attend the vigil, placing the Paschal candle in the sanctuary for the length of the Easter season. The Paschal candle is just loaded with meaning, but keeping that as a symbol to make sure people are aware of the resurrection joy, not just on Easter Sunday, but throughout the entire season. And then another fun Holy Saturday tradition comes to us from the Polish community, and that is the blessing of Easter baskets and food. And I just love this so much. You basically tell people, okay, bring like your main ingredients, put your main ingredients that you're going to be using for your Easter dinner in the basket, bring the basket to church on Holy Saturday at time that works, and we're going to bless those foods that will then become the Easter dinner meal. So there's, again, another beautiful way to bless the work, to bless the living experience, the traditions, and just kind of entering into it together. Okay, a couple minutes because I know I'm about up on my time. Easter Sunday as an octave and a season. I think that we're really, really good at celebrating Easter Sunday. We're really, really good at that. But we're not as great at celebrating for 50 days. And I will remind everyone of this. Liturgical living, a lot of people will try to be like, oh, liturgical living, you can do that, you could do that and be lazy. You could do that and not have to put a lot of effort into it. Look, liturgical living can be simple, but it does take effort. It does, because it does require a participation and learning how to be festive and learning how to celebrate takes work, right? It takes work, because after Easter Sunday, we start thinking about our usual day-to-day, not a season of celebrating Christ's resurrection and keeping that at the forefront of our minds and in our actions and in our homes and in our communities, like maintaining that sense of joy, but also maintaining that spirit of celebrating. And so I want to give you some ideas of things you can do to prolong that in your community. That 50 days is going to require some stamina. And it's the same thing in Christmas. We see this in Christmas, right? Everybody's celebrating Christmas and Advent, and then we get to Christmas season and nobody's doing anything. What's going on with that? We've got to learn how to kind of, taper, or not taper, but kind of build ourselves into that, right? Pace ourselves. That's where I'm like, pace yourself in a spirit of rejoicing and maintaining that rejoicing. So festive ideas, here's, a few. Offer Easter egg painting for your community. Maybe it's something you do in conjunction with coffee and donuts on a Sunday. In Germany, they will decorate the trees of their homes or their communities with hanging Easter eggs. Now down here in the South, we do that too, but we do that on indoor trees, like something you'd see like in the middle of a table, like a tablescape. But now that I've learned that in Germany, they do this outside and it's quite beautiful. Please go look this up when you're done. I'm going to put them all over my trees outside in my front yard now, but this is something you can do at your parish. If your parish has trees outside, hang up the Easter eggs. Maybe, number 3, instead of offering the Easter egg hunt on Sunday, on Easter Sunday, you weave that into another part of the season. We also see the Solemnity of the Ascension, and that is a perfect time. Weather's great, outdoor picnic, kite flying, bubbles, activities that make you look up, right? Ascension. And then at the beginning of May, we can do our parish-wide May crowning. These are things that keep a sense of rhythm going, that we're still in community, we're still celebrating that Christ rose, because I mean, the resurrection is the center of everything for us, right? No resurrection, then who cares about any of it? It doesn't matter, right? I mean, that was the gospel last Sunday. We're still in our sin and it's all been in vain. But no, the resurrection is real. It is true. We have to learn to live like that. You could also just do literally anything that your parish enjoys doing together for the Easter season. Doesn't have to be even connected to a feast day or anything like that. We like doing cookouts, let's do it. We want to do an outdoor movie, let's do it. Divine Mercy Sunday, we have the chaplet, maybe we make that a devotion. So I'm giving you lots of ideas and food for thought because I want you to feel energized and equipped to prepare people. That for Lent, yes, right? But Lent is not the end. Lent is our journey to a greater joy. And that we can really make a commitment together to embrace liturgical living as families and individuals and as communities. And that we encourage each other and we invite. I feel like that's all I do. I see an idea and then I just invite. Okay, I don't do things on my own either. I say, will you do this? Will you do this? I mean, I want you to lead. I don't want you to feel like you've got to do the whole thing on your own. We cannot individually be the sole orchestrators of tradition. It is that encouraging each other to stay engaged through Easter and beyond. So it's in living the year that we can really express our joy, and that is what creates the mark of Catholic culture, which we all say we want. We want Catholic culture. Well, Catholic culture means doing things, right? Doing things, saying things, acting upon things, and we have to be that. So if you have further questions, there's my Instagram, my Facebook, my website, His Girl Sunday. My book has literally everything mentioned and more with all the explanations. There are companions online too for Lent and all the seasons with even more resources so that things are simple for you. You don't have to do all the work. You just say, I want to do it. You find the people and do it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Steffani. I invite those on with us right now to send in your questions, your comments. You right now have the expert of liturgical living right here. So let's take advantage of this opportunity. Let us know what you're doing, what you're planning on doing, what you've done in the past that's worked, or if you have any other questions about maybe some specifics, details, those sorts of things. You are very encouraging, let me say, very motivating. I absolutely love listening to you talk and share all these great ideas. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you or maybe you're currently coaching parishes in this?
So parishes will, and thank you, Erin, I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know if I'm more of an expert as I am just a spaz, but I do. I do. Yes, coach parishes. They will email me or reach out to me, and it could be general. How do we start, or specific. We have this thing coming up. What's the best way to go about it? But 17 years in parishes, I've seen a lot of different kinds of parishes and things that work and don't. And it's an honor to be invited basically into people's communities and figure out what will get them moving.
Yeah. So what would you say to a parish leader who really wants to add more of these traditions and experiences for their parish, but they're really struggling with getting the engagement from the parishioners? What would you say, advise, maybe one little tidbit?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even at the co-cathedral, that I found some difficulty in that. I would say get a small group, get yourself a core team, okay? Start yourself a little core team and begin doing things to scale that makes sense with your budget, with your bandwidth, your energy, etc. And just leave it open for the entire parish to come. The most effective way to get people on board is for them to see and participate that something great is going on. And that is the selling point, right? Is that they want to be a part of it, they enjoyed it, and they want to do it again, and they want to see more of it. And then you can wrangle those people in.
So kind of starting and then make it great, as you say, and then word of mouth, right, will
Yep.
trickle.
Yep.
Or they'll be more interested in coming back the next time for a special event.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, we got some questions coming here. Can you invite people of different faiths to join us during this Lenten season?
Sure. I mean, I think that this is the thing about being Catholic. We love to show people what we do. We love being Catholic. And I think that is in itself a welcoming spirit, right? So of course we can invite people into that, and along the way share why we do what we do. Invite them to try to do what we do. You never know what the Holy Spirit can work in that.
The follow-up question to that would be how to do that. Would you maybe reach out to how would you invite people of different faiths? Yeah, to your event.
Well, I mean, as a community, I just saw a local young priest who's hosting a football game with the local Baptist church. I guess he just went over there and asked, like, do you guys want to play a sport with us? And they're like, yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be hard, right? It could be as simple as, we're doing this, would you guys like to come? And maintaining your Catholicity in that. And I mean, we're neighbors, for goodness sake, but just treat them like neighbors, right? Not as other. And I think when we can get in that mentality, like, it's easier to just be human and, and say the invitation is there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Here I have, this is rather lengthy, but I'm going to read it to you. This isn't a question, but I wanted to share that we do a number of things from the Office of Religious Education for the whole parish. One thing is Holy Pause, which is a family event for the parish that is put together by Faith and Family Collective. The PDF costs $40 and it gives you all that you need. We host it during coffee and donuts. We also do a family day of service to benefit our parish's Feed the Needy program, as well as a food drive for the program. This has really been well received by the parish. Yay!
Bravo! That is wonderful. See, you find things that work and then you can keep the ball rolling. I love that.
Absolutely. When you were talking about the bearing of the Alleluias, and my kids, they're Catholic grade school, they're adults now, but did a whole big Fat Tuesday with games and food, of course, and it really did get you going and get you in the spirit. So
Mardi Gras will definitely do that. My husband and I just buried the Alleluia in our backyard yesterday, and even just that simple gesture was, I think, the physical thing, and which is what the beauty of these traditions are, right? It's the physical thing that gets my mind into a different state. Like, okay, we're moving into this direction now. We're saying goodbye to something for now. And I think that we all need that sensory experience.
Most definitely, as we are sacramental people, right?
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, Steffani, as always, this is so interesting to hear about all of these traditions and ways that we can incorporate them in our parishes, and really, build up that liturgical culture in our lives, in our homes, as well as in our parishes. And so the book that you've been referring to, your book, Festive Faith, tell everybody a little bit more about the book.
So Festive Faith is written to kind of break the current mold of what liturgical living has been shown as on the internet, which is, for me, the way that I word this is more like catechetical, faith formation type crafts and lessons for children, and getting back to the way that these traditions really began, which is just kind of a communal spirit of joy and desire to be together and to do things together. And so Festive Faith has both in it a home breakdown of each tradition and a parish breakdown of each tradition, so that things are easily digestible. It goes season by season, and it really kind of hits the high points of each season.
Wonderful. Well, we will offer you 10% off when ordering at avemariapress.com using webinar 0218 for today's date. I was just asked if this will be sold at the LA Religious Education Congress this week. Yes, Ave will be there. Come see us. Come see all of our resources, including Festive Faith. You can get your copy there and start planning what you're going to do for Lent or other seasons. So thank you again, Steffani. Thank you everybody who is on with us today. You also mentioned that you have some downloadables on your website that has some even more information about the different seasons, recipes, other sorts of traditions, practices.
Yep.
Right?
If there was anything mentioned in any chapter of that book that I could not cram in there, a prayer, a recipe, any resource that would need to be at your fingertips, we just carried those over to a companion. Yeah.
And I will put links to your website on the follow-up email that goes out. So
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you again. And please join us next week. February 25th, Monica Ortega is going to talk about how we can minister to the married people of our parish, helping them with some of those tough conversations around lovemaking, so that they can grow in intimacy. I see I have a little typo here, my apologies. But I will include the registration link in the email tomorrow also. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Steffani. Have a great week.
Thanks so much.
We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.